Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to another geography video. This is everyone's favourite second channel series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today I'm going to be talking more about the geography of YouTube actually, which means we have the YouTube analytics map behind me. And if you don't know, this is a map of where people have watched my videos from for the past year or so, which means we can work out in the past year 832,000 people have watched my videos from the US, or 81 people have watched it from Greenland, or from Libya I've got 49 viewers, from China 136, or 100,000 from Sweden. This is something, again, this is fun, fascinating stuff, but I went over most down the last video. Today though, I wanted to talk about something which I realized when I was going over it last week, which is to do with various islands around the world. So there's places such as Svalbard and Jan Mayen, which I just realized last week, like, wait, why is that considered separate on YouTube's list of countries? If you don't know, Svalbard is actually an integral part of Norway, where there's 51,000 views by the way, but for some reason on the YouTube analytics page, it's counted separately. Those views are separate to Norway's, even though there's no like dispute over like, oh, is Svalbard independent? No, it's a part of Norway, like just 100%. And this got me curious, how many other islands are there around the world which are considered to be separate from their main country by YouTube itself? And that's what I'm going to be going through in today's video, and maybe sharing how many people have watched the video from those places, and also just kind of why those places are kind of like, I guess, controversial and separate in their own little ways. So hopefully you do enjoy going through 5 of these. So if you do enjoy the video, wait, I don't have to ask, let's get straight into it, and let's start by looking at this map over here. So yeah, there's the instinctive thing like the light thing by the way, and also I know my camera's glitching out. I have no idea why. I bought an upgraded camera and it's done nothing but glitch out, but it means if I want to on a second I can just do like this. So I guess I guess that's nice, right? But no, let's get straight back into talking about this map right here. And as you can see, we've got a map of the world, and yeah, we're going to use this to like properly show off geography, because when you look at the YouTube map for somewhere like, let's say Puerto Rico, it's really hard to find. It's just this little island, just okay, so it's it's really hard to even hopefully hover over while I'm recording the video, but you can see there is a little island of Puerto Rico over here, and as you can see, it's considered to be its own separate country or geography on the map of Google, which is quite interesting. And by the way, 2,500 views with an average view duration of 5 minutes. So if you're one of those 2,500 people, thank you for watching with Puerto Rico. So what's the deal with Puerto Rico in very, very brief? Again, I know this is like, by the way, in case you're curious, this is a key part of America. It is America, and like unambiguously, although it's kind of like its own little thing, it's kind of like federal property of America. It's not a state, it's one of just the American properties, and for some reason, it's considered to be its own separate countries in a few different ways. It has its own internet domain, a few other things like that, and the big reason for this is because it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the US. It has a giant population in the millions, however, for some reason, you know, like it's just been part of the US because, and that's some reason for the record, is because the US went to war with the Spanish Empire at the very end of the 19th century, and essentially, you know, destroyed the Spanish Empire in a pretty short war, took over all of its possessions. One of those possessions just happened to be Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico has done very well out of being part of the US, so they really don't want independence, even though, you know, again, in a weird way, they're kind of like out of place from the rest of it. Again, they speak Spanish on this island as opposed to English, which is the de facto language pretty much everywhere else in the US, but Spanish is the most widely spoken one here. Again, a key part of the territory. It's just a very bizarre island that's just like chilling out all the way over here, and the reason it's so controversial is because they always are having referendums on like what they want to be, and they can never really decide to all show up to vote. They had one very recently where they voted in favor of statehood, and you might think, oh, well, that's sorted then. Well, I guess there's going to be a 51st state, but they're not actually going to be like that because people who don't want to become a state just refuse to vote, so it's not a legit vote. It's confusing stuff is what I'm saying, and also one of the options of like, oh, going out on their own, well, they have this giant pile of debt they can't really deal with, and like, basically the point is Puerto Rico has a whole range of problems. You can look into them yourself, but basically it's a problematic island that belongs to the US, and it's considered to be separate because I guess it's just so separate to some Americans because there's no such thing as really American territory, although there is, but most people consider what America is to be the 50 states, or yeah, the 50 states, but that means that, you know, like there's some places that kind of get left out of that, and one of those, because it's really far away, is Puerto Rico. Some of the other islands are in the same boat. American Samoa, for instance, Guam, all count as their own separate islands, but Puerto Rico is the most populous, so I figured we'd start there. I want to go like really briefly on that because I know Americans are big. I mean, most Americans know a lot about this place, and apparently they're 28% of the people who watch my videos, but yeah, there you go. Now you know about Puerto Rico. These are actually Americans, not Puerto Ricans. They're just Puerto Ricans and Americans that are actually watching my videos from over there. So with that said, let's move on to the second one, which is on, confusingly, on you know, YouTube's list of islands, but not a real world thing, and that's actually going to be Svalbard and Jan Mayen, because I really love this place. I really want to go there at some point, actually, because Svalbard and Jan Mayen is the one that kind of inspired this video. It looks like this on Google Maps. It's a little bit, I mean, on YouTube's analytics, but on Google Maps, it looks something more like this. So yeah, this is Svalbard. It looks a lot bigger because of the Mercator projection. Let me just kind of prove that like it gets smaller because it's at the top of the world. blah, 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 blah. That's why Greenland's smaller too. But yeah, this is Svalbard right here. And if you're curious as to why it's Svalbard and Jan Mayen, it's because these are the two remaining, or there's some other stuff, but these are the two major islands remaining in control of Norway. They used to own a lot of the other territories, but Denmark kind of took them. And Jan Mayen is found just over here. It has no permanent population, if I'm not mistaken. There's 35 people that occasionally go there. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, so I guess, Norway's got some islands. It's got the Svalbard with a population of about 2,000, and it's got Jan Mayen with a population of about 500. So yeah, they kind of have their own, Svalbard, Svalbard has some very unique things going on because it's like an international science place where mostly just science stuff gets it. Again, that's a really, really basic explanation because I'm not too familiar with the place, but basically lots of really fascinating stuff goes on there. Again, that's why I'd like to visit. And yeah, this is Svalbard right here. The capital is Longyearbyen, and to leave the capital, if you are not, if you're by yourself or you're not with someone has to have a gun at all times. It's like the opposite of like the problem lots of other countries where they have to get rid of guns. They need you to have a gun because tourists kept going and they kept being killed by polar bears, which is a wacky problem for a country to have, right? Like, we need to give people more guns or they'll get killed by polar bears. That's a problem Svalbard had, and if you're one of the 31 people who watch me from Svalbard and Jan Mayen, I think that's pretty darn cool. So yeah, in case you're curious, they're really far apart from each other. I don't know why they're grouped together so often, besides just being like Norway's islands, but for some reason, for some reason this island right here is not considered be part of it. So again, we've got these two islands and then not this one. So if you're curious as to what this is Bjorn, oh yeah, I don't know how to pronounce Norwegian, but it translates into English as Bear Island. I'm not joking, there is genuinely an island called Bear Island, and the best thing about this island is, again, no one lives here, but the only thing they have on this island, their only exportable resource, is gravel. I am not kidding you when I say there is a Bear Island, it belongs to Norway, and all they can do with it is gravel, and I don't know, that's just amazing to me. So yeah, moving on from that to the third place that is considered to be a geography on the YouTube analytics, but because, by the way, bear in mind, in case you're like, oh no, these are just islands to look at, why are Canada's islands not separate? Why are, the different oblasts of Russia not to be considered separate? Like, there's all these, weird kind of separate standards, and that's why I'm confused in this way. But yeah, let's, or like the UK, for instance, why are the separate countries not like that? We literally have a place over there that's like, it's, whatever. Anyway, so with that said, let's go on to the next place, and it's located here between Finland and between, Sweden and between Finland, and it's really hard to like, okay, there you go, the Åland Islands, so it's a Swedish A, I think, and yeah, that's the Åland Islands right there. These are islands which do not belong, okay, so again, they're not part of either Sweden or Russia, but when you look at a map and you try to work out which country do they really belong to, because, as I said, every country on this list is one that very definitively belongs to one country, and when you look at the Åland Islands, as you can see right there, who do you think they belong to? Well, it looks a bit more like Sweden, right? Because, I mean, again, like, just zooming out really far, it looks a lot closer to Finland, so Sweden. However, because they're so close to Finland, interestingly, a long time ago, 200 plus years ago, when the Russian Empire invaded Finland for one of the first times, they actually decided to take the Åland Islands, which were at the time part of Sweden, off the Swedish and just like lump them into the territory. So there is this giant territory in between Sweden and Finland where everyone speaks Swedish, but they belong to Finland. It's very confusing, and the reason for that, like I said, is because they were invaded. They were taken to be part of the Finland, which belonged to the Russians. Then when the Finnish people got their independence, they were just like, we'll have the islands too, because they were ours the whole time. The Åland Island people really wanted independence. There was going to be a giant war, and interestingly enough, the League of Nations, the precursor sort of to the United Nations, this is one of the few disputes they ever solved, and it actually fixed it forever. They just said, guess what? We, as the grand authority of the world, the League of Nations, have decided the Åland Islands will remain a part of Finland, and that's why to this day they have, because Sweden just went, well, I guess that's that then. So yeah, Åland Islands almost went to war just over 87 years ago to go back to Sweden. They all speak Swedish, even though they're part of Finland, and they get money from Finland, but they kind of do their own independent thing, and they take part in something called the Island Games, where they basically think they're a country. It's confusing stuff, okay? That's the Åland Islands. They're probably going to do something weird of their own in the future, but yeah, that's a weird bit of no, actually, there is more to talk about. I love that. This is just such a fascinating place, because most of these they're called the Åland Islands because there's 6,500 of them. This mess you see right here? These are all genuinely their own little islands. I'll show you with the it's kind of hard to probably see, but these are the Åland Islands. There are 6,500 of them, but like with most other island ranges, this is like you see how my light changes when that happens? But yeah, like most other island ranges, these have the very fascinating fact of just one of the islands, which is Åland, actually has 90% of the population. Again, it's pretty common because, like, you all need to go to one place. The rest of them are just kind of, like, a weird bulk of territory. So there's 6,499 islands with just 10% of the population between them. But also quite fascinatingly to me is the fact that there's a place called Market. I always have a problem like pinpointing it exactly. Is it this one? But my point being is there is an island between Finland and Sweden where they draw the exact border. Okay. Maybe I should type it in. But my point being is if you actually look at the border between these two places, it looks something like this. Because what happened is they split the island down the middle. Again, that was meant to be the official border between Finland and Sweden. However, Finland accidentally built a lighthouse on the Swedish side. And because Sweden's such a great country, they were just like, okay, here's what we'll do. We won't take your, it's on our territory, but we won't take it. We'll just take an equal amount of your territory. So as you can see, they got their whole lighthouse to themselves. And then Sweden got an equal size bit of Finland's thing, and that's the Swedish-Finnish land border, which I find to be just a little bit fascinating. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to the last couple of island territories that are considered to be geographies by YouTube, because, geography is a fun word, right? And they are considered, they're located way down here by Madagascar. So for some reason, I do have 30 viewers from Madagascar, which is, I mean, that's like kind of cool, right? But no, let's zoom out from that, and let's show you the fact that there are two islands over here, one of which is Reunion. It's really hard pinpointing these on my screen, so that's Comoros, not Reunion. But there is Reunion over here. No, Mayotte, sorry. There is Mayotte over here between Comoros and Madagascar. So Madagascar is its own country. Comoros is its own country. And in between them, you've got Mayotte. So you might think, what's that then? Is it its own country? And no, it's actually a part of France. And you might say, oh, it's a part of the French Empire, like all these other weird places, like the Falkland Islands and all these other weird places that belong to the UK or like whatever else. No, this is a part of France. And you might be like, no, Toycat, that's in Africa. That's not France. There's France. That's not France. Well, the thing about Mayotte is it's one of the overseas departments of France. So departments are like how they split up their country. Overseas departments have exactly the same rights as France in every single regard, which is quite fascinating because as well as Mayotte being here, which is the small of the two, has a population of just over 200,000. You've also got Reunion, which is the biggest of all of the, so the island of Reunion, the biggest of all of the overseas departments of France. It has by population, I should clarify. Always going to clarify that because people matter to me. No, I get whatever. Anyway, so I guess this is geography, so that's that. But anyway, basically, there's just under 1 million people living here, and both of these islands are both part of France, definitively, and that has the rather fascinating side effect of meaning that this is, because it's part of France, they vote in French presidential elections, they use the euro currency, French is the official language, it is France here. Even though it's all the way down in Madagascar. But yeah, the reason that's so fascinating is because it means that lots of weird things, like the EU, for instance, has to consider this a part of France. So where is the European Union? The European Union's, this place up there, minus the Balkans and soon to be the UK. Oh, but also it includes these islands by Madagascar. And also it has the fascinating side effect of they make a lot of rum, on Reunion in particular, I believe. And this, this rum they make over here, because this is officially France, they can say this rum is made in France or a product of France, which means you might be buying French rum from Africa, which again, it's still officially France. This is France in every single definition of the word, and it's just one of those wacky things about France, in my opinion, but that also kind of carries over to like, oh yeah, well, France is lots of islands, and these islands are France, and there's no disjoining the two. It's one of those wacky things, and it's, two things you might not have known about. There are two islands that are part of France, by every definition of the word that France wants to give you anyway, that both are considered separate geographies on YouTube. Again, they're just geography, so it's not too offensive. But still, I have some viewers from... Okay, that's Mauritius. I have some viewers from Reunion, 101 of you. And if you're from Reunion, then thank you for watching my videos. How about you give me some of that French rum, eh? So yeah, I hope you did all enjoy this video. If you are just curious, again, people love to see this, like, oh, I want to see my country. So what we'll do before we go here, because I think it must be fascinating. See that? Here are the country... Oh, wait, this is... Oh, I guess if we go by watch time again? Oh, interesting. But here are all the countries. I'm going to hover over all of them. Maybe you can pause it when I get to yours. I do have some viewers from Chile. I do have some viewers from the Congo. Since we're here anyway, so there's two Congos, the Democratic Republic of Congo and the other Congo. I think it's just called the Congo. Oh, Republic of Congo. So there's two Congos, and they're actually distinguished by their capital cities, Brazzaville and Kinshasa. And for some reason, that's like colloquially anyway, but on the Google Maps, they actually just call them Congo Kinshasa, and they call it Congo Brazzaville. So I guess this isn't the most official map of the world, but it's quite fascinating. Also, I had 98... Okay, I thought that was like average watch time. Yeah, this is just a fascinating little map of the world. I could look at it all day and just be like, whoa, I had... how many viewers from Svalbard? 31. I had 81 Greenlandic viewers. I had 30 Madagascans, 75,000 Australians. And I could do that all day, but I am going to have to stop eventually. So I hope you did all enjoy this video. Like it. Wait, second channel, don't care. Goodbye. F9.